Welcome to the OpsTok podcast. In this podcast, we explore the intersection of operations, technology, and business excellence with highly accomplished owners and operators.
Today on OpsTok, we have a special guest, David Eizeleman, Director of Operations with a special talent for turnarounds.
Hey everyone, welcome to OpsTok, the podcast where we explore the intersection of operations, technology, and business excellence in diverse industries and settings. Here on OpsTok, we interview highly accomplished operators and owners. I'm Sahand, and let me introduce my co-host, Tom.
Thank you, Sahand. Today, we are super happy to have a special guest with us, David Eizeleman, who is an incredible Director of Operations, super successful, a lot of experience as a leader, and he's got a talent for performing turnarounds. So with that introduction, David, please tell us more about yourself, your journey in operations. Our audience would love to hear from you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate being a part of this. My operation career began well over 25 years ago. Started off actually in quality and kind of advanced from there. Worked in a heavy vehicle and defense industry. Then transitioned. Life kind of takes you on strange routes along the way. I became a recovery and turnaround guy. And that was very interesting. Spent quite a few years doing that. A great learning experience, helps you sharpen your skills, and you're really responsible for yourself. You're responsible for everything. So it was probably one of the most life expanding experiences I've had. Since then, I've run plating companies, orthopedic cutting tools, warehousing and distribution. Currently, I'm running a isothermal freezer facility. We're making isothermal freezers for the medical industry. So I've kind of been along the whole way, and somewhere along the way there, I did automotive too. Being in the Midwest, that seems to be a requirement. So I did do some time there also.
That's fantastic. What a great diverse career background you have. You mentioned something, the life experience expanding experience that you had when you got into turnarounds. Would you describe that as your most pivotal moment in your career? If yes, sort of tell us a little bit more about it. If not, what was the most pivotal moment in your career?
I'd probably say those are probably the most pivotal. I did about 3 or 4 of them. The thing that you learn by doing that is you have a very set period of time that they're going to give you. You're going into an organization, a division that's struggling. One of them was actually, it was a family business. They're trying to position themselves for sale. So you have a very set period of time, and they have a lot of diverse issues, financial, operational, human resources, supplier, customer. So it really gives you an opportunity to wear multiple hats, and it all begins and ends with you, and that's the way they want it. So you learn how to sharpen your skills. You really improve communication skills because in any operation, in anything you do, you can't do it yourself. So I think the big thing that I've learned is building a team, and surrounding yourself with people. I always say you want to surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. You want to surround yourself with people who have greater skills. I've been in highly engineered fields, and I'm not an engineer. Let me tell you, my skill set, screwing in a light bulb is sometimes a challenge for me.
Fascinating.
It's learning how to communicate with engineers, learning what they need, and supplying what they need. As operations people, as leaders, the way I feel, my job is to help people succeed, remove the obstacles in front of them, whether they're real or imagined, and help them take those steps. So really, I think, they're doing the turnarounds. I was in different areas as in Oklahoma, Indiana, Ohio. So you learn to communicate with different types of people. It was just a great experience. It really was.
It's so incredible, and I love that you talk about communication, and it's so easily in manufacturing that's so many times overlooked by leaders, but it's so critical. What do you think are some challenges that you've learned in your experience on building those team of communications, or what are some lessons learned that you could pass on to our audience?
I think the biggest key is to listen more than you talk. And people, there's the old saying, people hear, but they really don't listen. You need to listen. You need to realize that everybody has their concerns, particularly when you come in, you're a new leader coming in. They automatically, no matter what, have preconceived notions of all the leaders they had before them. They're going to pile all that onto you. So you have to let them know who and what you are. You have to be honest. The biggest sin you can make is not to tell the truth. And there's nothing wrong when somebody asks you something going, I don't know. But the big key you got to do after that is go, let me find out and follow up. If somebody asks you something, follow up, respond, whether it be a customer, a supplier, most importantly, your associate, your team member, you've got to reply to them. Even if you're giving them the news they don't want to hear. One of the tricks is a little side note, everybody gets panicked when they're going to be late on an order. The best thing you do and the greatest thing to do is you call the customer before they call you. First off, the customer is going to be totally flabbergasted that you're calling them and you're saying, hey, because of this, and this, we're going to be late with this order, but this is what we're going to do to resolve it. And then you make the new promise. Now, whatever promise you make, God, you better hit it. But I'm always a believer in if there's bad news, I'm going to present it. And even in every organization, whenever we're going to be late with a customer, I never put it on my salesman, my customer service, or anybody else. I'm the one that calls the customer. So it's me. I call that way. If they're upset, I take the heat. I'm a big boy. I can be yelled at. I've been married 37 years. So let me tell you, they have to do a lot of yelling to really affect me. But it's important as a leader that you handle the difficult things. When things are going well and great and there's glory and there's rewards, that's when you step back and let your team take it. So you're being a leader is developing people and helping your team to succeed. If my team succeeds and they accomplish great things, that's wonderful. That means I've done my job.
That's fascinating. And you reiterated the fact that the buck stops with you, whether it's giving bad news to the customers or really assembling a team that has complementary skills, better skills than you do about the certain things that they need to do, and then going in there and removing obstacles so that they can actually, do their best job and be their best selves. And as a whole, the company, your team wins. So that's fascinating to hear from you. And I wanted to zero in on it a little bit more in your turnaround experiences. This whole really everything converging upon you and you being on the hook for doing the turnaround. Just you've got to have some really interesting stories, good or bad. So if you've got anything to share with us that sort of highlights a positive aspect of it or negative, by all means, I would love to hear more about that.
The first actually operation I did, it was working for a company, had a variety of divisions. It was a tier 2 automotive, and they were buying powdered metal parts. And they came with this great idea, boy, if we could find a powder metal company that's for sale, buy it, vertical integration, right pocket, left pocket, work great. So they bought this company in Billings, Oklahoma. Now, this is not Billings, Montana. This is Billings, Oklahoma. It's a population of 300 if you count the cats and dogs. As I met with them, a big boardroom with a bunch of people there, the president of the company, the owner, he said, I came up with this idea. He goes, we did our due diligence and all these people here told me not to buy it. He goes, but it was such a good deal, I bought it anyways. He goes, since I bought it, he goes, I've spent the past 3.5 years, almost 4 years. I have to write them a check every month to keep them afloat. This division's largest customer, is also a big customer for the rest of the divisions in the company. He goes, we're so far behind in orders to them that it's affecting everybody else. He goes, and then the insult to insults, he goes, I'm not getting any powder metal parts. I have a powder metal company. I'm having to buy powder metal from somebody else. Right. He said, I'm going to give you 6 months. He goes, go in there, either turn it around, or if you can't turn it around, close it. So went in there. One of the most stunning things when I walked in, I'd never been in a powdered metal facility. They had 12 presses and a few other pieces of equipment. Their productivity, which is to this day after being there and everything, I can't believe it. I walked in the door, their productivity was 28%. Now, it seemed to me
Wow.
if you came in, turned on the lights, hit a button to start a machine, you'd be better than 28%.
Wow.
So as I'm looking at it, and you know, first when you get in, you keep your mouth shut, you just observe and learn. So they have all these 12 presses, and I'm looking, and most of the parts are going through 2 presses. So I'm a big 5 why guy, I guess. You know, why? So why are you doing that? You know, well, those presses, you know, reliable. And I go, yeah, but why? I go, well, because that's where we've always run them. You know, so it was like, well, can't you run them on the other presses? No. Why? Well, we don't have the dies for those. Okay. Can we buy dies for them? Yeah, and I know you guys make some dies here. Could you make dies for them? Well, yeah, we could do that. I said, okay, let's go outside the box here, gang. So we had them. I had them make some dies. We bought some dies. I promised the owner of the company when I went in there that he wouldn't have to send checks anymore. I said, if we can't get enough business out the door, this was probably stupid in retrospect, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. It's called being cocky. I said, if we don't get enough business out the door to pay them to pay me, I go, you don't have to pay me.
Right.
The business has got to pay me. And he laughed and said, sure, good deal. And so I told the folks when I got in there, met with the team, I said, we're not taking checks from the great uncle up north anymore. If we want to get paid, we want to survive, we've got to get product out the door. Move fast forward, within 30 days, we took productivity from 28% up to 85%. Just by firing up the other machines. I met with suppliers and worked with them to keep product coming in the door. The powder mainly, obviously, and keep the lights on. And as I mentioned before, I started calling customers who were very late, and some customers I traveled to, and you know, and one of them was a pretty big OEM. And so, you know, sat there and took the abuse, but that's okay. I promised them that within 45 days, we would get all their orders caught up. And we were able to do it in the 45 days. Then I went back and got the orders going back again. So, you know, it comes to asking questions. And again, I was the one that took the hits, and the salespeople felt comfortable going back in again. Because when I went back in, I took the salespeople with me. And I said, well, you know, this is where we're at and we're doing, and we got it going. And then one of the last tasks I had, well, I should step back. We got to a positive EBITDA within 90 days and a positive net income at 120 days. Almost forgot the important stuff, guys.
Wow.
So then the last task I had was to find somebody to run the facility, and I was able to recruit somebody from the St. Mary's, Pennsylvania area. If you didn't know, it's one of the powder and metal meccas of the world, I guess. Able to recruit a gentleman, work with him for a few months, and it was a good culture fit. And so,
Wow, that is such an incredible story. And you know, you really showed us all the facets of a turnaround. It's not just operations, it's the financial, the tip about bringing the salespeople and then finding someone to maintain it. And that is just a incredible, really successful story of a turnaround. It's so cool to share. I mean, that's just an amazing story to go from 28 to over say 85%. Wow, that's incredible.
Amazing.
That's really amazing. Is there anything else in your career that you professionally consider a success that nears that? Is that
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
okay, please share. Yeah.
My next job, my next recovery, actually, I was recruited by a carbide end mill manufacturer out of Ohio. Large, they make carbide end mills, thousands and thousands a day. A matter of fact, it's probably one of the most impressive distribution setups I've ever seen. It still amazes me. Anyway, where they struggled with is their sales engineers had always said that they struggle if a customer needs a special end mill, something with a different geometry, different diameter, different angle, something that's not off the shelf. And when you mass produce something, it's very difficult to produce onesies, twosies, or something. So they tried a variety of things and failed. Then they came across a company in Columbia City, Indiana, that lo and behold did specialized carbide end mills and was for sale. So then, boom, we got it. They bought it and thought their problems were solved. Unfortunately, this often happens when you buy a company like that, and they gave the owner a 5-year employment contract. Sometimes the meshing doesn't go well, particularly from a longtime family business to corporate. Put it simply, the relationship went sour. They brought in a variety of people to try to work there. It wasn't going well. When they bought the company, it was doing about 3.5, 3.6 million. By the time they brought me in, which was towards the end of the employment contract for the owner, they were down to 1.7 million. So I came in and got with the customer base, and a lot of them pushed back on going to distribution, try to work with them and do what I could, but too much damage had been done. This facility had precision 5-axis CNC grinders. The crew was pretty well trained, a young group, but very well trained. One of their customers that I met with, besides doing carbide end mills for them, Columbia City's near Warsaw, Indiana, and there's a lot of orthopedic organizations there. And they were doing work for this one orthopedic company. But what they were also doing is kind of as a favor, goodwill, they were grinding stainless cutting tools, onesies, twosies, prototypes, or anything, just as a goodwill gesture. Never much revenue. So I got in and I started studying the business. And one of the other things that struck me is the orthopedic cutting tool business, this is back in 2019, excuse me, was a $90 billion industry. That's just in the US alone. It's billion with a B. So I got this idea that we would convert this facility to a contract manufacturer of orthopedic cutting tools. I'm cutting a little bit short here. There's other research done and so forth. We turn it into a contract manufacturer of orthopedic cutting tools. I worked with the state of Indiana, Whitley County, where the business was located, and local governments, was able to secure a series of tax abatements, incentives, training dollars, whatever, a whole potpourri of different things, put together a business plan, presented it to the parent company, and they said, go for it. The owner of the company at that time told me when we bought this company, he goes, I promised the people there that I would, we had a 10-year lease, that I would keep the company going for 10 years. He goes, so when they brought me in, he goes, you got 5 years to make this work. It doesn't work if you can't stop losing money in 5 years. He goes, you know, he goes, we've just got to stop it. So we started this orthopedic company. We got the ISO 13485, which is what you need for orthopedics. Got FDA registered, brought in people for training. I mean, grinding is grinding, but it was different types of materials. Was able to get a decent deal on a Swiss machine. And then the key is I was able to recruit a gentleman who had experience within the orthopedic industry as a national sales manager. Then we were able to arrange contract sales reps throughout the country. Long story short, we were successful. In 5 years, brought it up to 4.5 million, almost 4.7 million, and it's still going today. So that was probably the most exciting, and paid crazy. Did trade shows. I went with, you know, and again, meeting with customers. You know, I think they gave me the title of president then. You know, titles are titles, but it's great on a business card when you go meet with a customer and national sales manager. Hi, I'm the president of the division. Little do they know at that time, the division, particularly some that I met with, you know, had no business in the orthopedic industry at all, but it worked well. So it was a lot of fun.
That's amazing. David, you've gone through a lot of turnarounds, and we talked about really, I think the secret sauce, the amazing force you bring to the table is the sense of ownership. Not financial ownership. I mean, hopefully there's a lot of that involved too, but really ownership, loving and really taking the responsibility for what your team does, what the factory does, the company does. We talked about thinking outside the box, you know, and then getting really close to how things run, like the 5 whys, you know, why are we doing it this way? Can we do a better job? Why not, right? I wanted to switch gears for a moment, if you will, into seeing where does technology play in the sort of the pecking order. How does it play, if it does, play a role in, you know, your advantages that you bring to turnarounds? And in general, how do you keep abreast of the, you know, all the changes that happens in technology constantly? So I wanted to switch gears into that, if you will.
Technology is critical. It really is. There's lots of great tools out there. A matter of fact, right here, you can't see I've got a dashboard on my screen. So, you know, you can use the technology to monitor what's happening on the floor, to monitor the productivity. As I mentioned, back in Oklahoma, it was 28, we switched to 85. You know, we were using stopwatches and paper. By the time I left, we actually brought in a program, or it's a manufacturing system that we hooked up to the presses, so we could actually monitor productivity, monitor downtime. Technology is really critical. Bringing in the proper technology for your design team. One of the things I'm trying to learn more about right now, matter of fact, is how AI can fit into everything, particularly when it comes to production planning. Technology, when I was in the warehousing industry, was critical. Um, you know, we used pretty advanced software to, you know, monitor inventory coming in, inventory going out, orders coming in from customers. It was really a dynamic situation because from our production people, our production managers, they really had, you know, they almost worked like in a cockpit. You looked at it was like looking at a 727 airline, but they had orders coming in. They knew the timing, and the system would show them the timing of orders coming in when UPS or FedEx or DHL, whoever was coming in to move it, if it was freight, who was coming in. So the key with technology is to realize whatever you're using technology today is obsolete. Okay, it's like continuous improvement. Yeah, what you're using today is great and it's working, but you've got to have an eye of where you want to be 5 years from now. And the technology you want to get is the technology that's going to support you 5 years from now. So that's where you need to learn about how AI fits into all this. What kind of new systems they have in. So you've got to, LinkedIn's a great tool, podcasts, reading, you got to, you know, you kind of got to be a little bit of a geek, I guess, just to, and I'm not real strong in technology, but to get out there and see different things, the machines these days, what they can do is from when I started, even from when 5 years ago, it's almost frightening what they can do. We have a laser cutter out there that can do everything but make you breakfast in the morning, but you got to know how to use it. So the people you hire these days, you know, manufacturing is different. It's not the dirty shop floor that our parents probably grew up in, and you know, people come home in grease. It's, you know, we have really pretty advanced guys out there with understanding computers, understanding technology, challenging me on new technology we can bring in because I challenge them. You know, great, this is working great. What do we need to do next? So, um, keeping up with the technology is probably the greatest challenge. Understanding what kind of investment is going to pay off for you, what makes sense today, and maybe it makes sense to wait, or stuff you got to get in right now. It's kind of like I mentioned AI. We've got a group here, some of my engineers and some of my programmers right now are really trying to see how AI can work in and support us, and do we make the investment? And you know, it's one thing to make the investment, but then how do we use it? You know, you got to produce an ROI. So we're trying to understand how that can fit in and what it can do for our business.
That's very, very innovative, David. And you know, Sahan and I are no strangers to the AI world, so we could
I
definitely
am.
spend a lot. Definitely, but you're right. You're right on the right track when it comes to it, because it's all about finding the use cases of where we can leverage AI to make our lives better. And you know, from my background and manufacturing, service, and operations, I think that there's a million things that we can do where we can leverage AI to make our lives easier. So it's very, very exciting field, and a lot of, I know there's a AI gold rush right now, but there's definitely a lot of practical use cases that are coming up specifically for operations, and a lot of it's you know, what's exciting. The trend that I'm seeing is it's a lot of subject matter experts or people that have been in operations that now it became democratized, so they can actually access these tools and use them. So there's a lot of you know, ChatGPT is probably the quickest and easiest way to get going with AI, and there's a lot of professionals in my network that I use ChatGPT and the just various things in a manufacturing environment. So it's really, really Cool to see. Glad that you're going on that journey.
Can I,
Very
Tom,
exciting.
sorry, can I jump in for a second? Because, it's AI. I got to geek out, obviously. And because, David, you mentioned you have your own team working on this, just whatever you do, don't connect ChatGPT to the presses or the machines quite yet.
No,
So that's the
no, we're
don't
operating
let them press
within
the
a box.
button.
No, we're operating within a box with it
Of
right now.
course.
It fits into in any place I've been, and I really try. It's a continuous improvement culture, even in something like that. So we're operating in a controlled environment. We do have some equipment that's not online or anything that we play with and do stuff with. That, if we blow it up, it doesn't matter, or if it gets corrupted, it really doesn't matter. So we're really just, I think right now they're trying to get comfortable with it and, not be scared if they fall off the bike to get back up. So it's really, honestly, we've probably been messing with it no more than maybe 2 or 3 months. So no, we're nowhere near, there's a lot of scratching heads going on with it right now, so that's okay.
Yeah, it's the fascinating part of it. Wow, it can actually think this way or provide
Yeah.
answers. But yeah, but that's great. That's a great journey to be on. Tom and I are on it. I think he's a little bit more advanced than I am. He got me into this, so I got to give him credit about that. But it's just been a fascinating journey watching AI together. Um, you mentioned you have a dashboard that we can't see and it's right on your screen. I just wanted to kind of ask you about that. So is that part of your strategy? Sort of how does it help you? What does it show you without obviously going into details that you can't share with us, but whatever you can share, it would be great to learn about your dashboards and how do you use them for, I guess, better data-driven decision making.
Well, numbers never lie, okay? They don't tell you the whole story. So I want to preface it. I had this one customer, and probably the first time I saw a dashboard, and he showed me, I mean, it's dashboard and everything. He goes, I can run the whole operation from here. He goes, I can do it from home. He goes, I don't even need to be here, and I can see and I can run it. Maybe I'm a little old school. You got to spend a lot of time on the floor too, okay? But what it's showing me is I can see right now everybody's at lunch. That's what I can see. But it shows me if a machine's down. It shows me if a machine's in setup, how it's running, number of parts. Particularly use it if, we run some to stock, but we have some hot orders or something we may be behind on. I can see if it's going, how it's doing. I can see what operator is running it, which sometimes is helpful to understand. So it gives you a lot of data. It gives me cycle time. It shows me scrap, and so forth. So it helps you understand. It's old school, like when we used to go out there with a piece of paper and a pen and kind of write stuff down. It gives me real-time information that helps me understand what's happening on the floor. And particularly if I see an area that seems to be struggling, it's and as I preach to my people, because they have it too, if you see an area that's struggling, don't pick up your phone, don't go, get yourself out of the chair, walk out there and see what's happening. Nothing replaces that. So, it's great. It's good. It gives me information. It's colorful, but beyond that, it gives you that, and then you can pull data from it too, and from it gives you, on-time delivery, and so you can get all kinds of KPIs from it also. So it's handy. It's good, particularly for me. When I see there's a problem, that's what I'm most focused on. When the red comes up, that's where I, see what needs to be done and whether I need to go motivate my maintenance staff or whatever it may be.
The old saying, what gets measured gets improved, right? That's the
Life is continuous improvement. It really is in all facets, and it's a great tool. But the thing you got to watch with the dashboard, again, I apologize for anybody who's real geeky in this. It can also make you lazy. And it gives you information, but again, you've got to take the next step and understand what the information means. And that means getting out on the floor. It really does.
And that's a perfect segue into my next question. So as we're looking at, and we talked a little bit about it, right? the next generation of people that are coming into manufacturing, or the next generation, or the next group of people that are interested in manufacturing? Like, what I've experienced a lot in Texas was we've, and that's how I came down to Texas to be part of a launch team. We're building a lot of manufacturing here, so a lot of people are changing careers into manufacturing because the opportunities are there. So what would be your advice for someone entering manufacturing, or also what is your advice for the next generation that's still in school, that's heading this way? What could you pass on to them?
I think the first thing is to realize that manufacturing is changing well, like most things in the world today, at the speed of light. So it's a challenge to keep up with it, but it's exciting. It really is. You're making things. I guess my biggest advice, and I give it to my leaders all the time, and I'm kind of talking about what we just talked about, is you have to be present. Okay. Um, my advice to them: get out, get your hands dirty, deburr some parts, assemble some parts. I'm not a technical guy, but be by a machine. Talk to your engineers, talk to your quality people, talk to your shipping people. By God, talk to your maintenance people. You need to get out and understand what all these groups are facing and how they interact. You may think you know how they interact, but really how they interact. My advice to people who are coming in the field is, if you want to make something, if you want to make something last beyond you, we as human beings have a set expiration date, okay? But if we build an operation and a business well enough, it goes on beyond us. So my advice to them is, if you want something exciting, if you want something that's different every day, if you want something you can come in and make a difference, this is it. It's more than just than just pushing a button. And a lot of people think that. When I bring some kids in here, I do a lot of work with STEM in different areas. Or you bring the parents in and they're like, I didn't realize manufacturing was this today. It is. It really is. It's exciting. It's different. Particularly in some of the fields I've been in when I was in orthopedics and where now, you make a difference in people's lives. And I think too, people need to understand that manufacturing, particularly where I am now, is more than just automotive. It's more to it, but even automotive these days. I mean, with electric cars and batteries, my God, it's such a dynamic, it's such a wide open field. It's exciting. It really is. I mean, I could go on for hours about it.
No, it is really exciting. And with the push to do more, in our neck of the woods, I'm close to you, based out of Toronto, so I'm kind of including myself in,
Okay.
manufacturing America, but
Sure.
we are, we're close. We do some, automotive manufacturing here too. But it's an exciting time when it comes to so much activity reviving and rejuvenating in North America. There's obviously really great expertise all over the world, but it's just great to see that, we are seeing that in semiconductor, we are seeing that in, batteries and the EV space. What are some of the sectors that within manufacturing that you're, seeing a lot of excitement in particular? You already mentioned EV, but what are some of the things you're seeing that is an opportunity for growth in the next, 5, 10 years?
Well, I'll
In
tell
North
you, people say it's been around a long time, but it's different. It's robotics and automation, because it's vastly different than, I remember when we did automation, when we started, it's vastly different than what it is today. So a lot of the companies, we're working on automating things here. It's one of the initiatives we're doing here. But the thing is, it's not just putting in the automation. You need the people who can run the automation, who can program it, who can fix it, who understand it. That's a hot area. It really is. I would recommend anybody who's looking at that to certainly get involved in that. As far as an industry goes, any kind of healthcare industry right now is the way to go. To give you an example, when I was doing the research when I did the orthopedic cutting tool industry, if you think back to, I think it was 97 or 98 when the Great Recession, I think those were the years that it happened. While everything else was tanking, the orthopedic cutting tool industry grew at 1.5%. So the health industry, the health sector, it's growing, it's hot, it's relatively recession-free, and the technology and the growth and the change, it's mind-blowing. It really is. I had one of my customers, and matter of fact, my wife's having a knee replacement. They scan the knee and they make the knee right there. We made the tools to cut the material to make the knee, which was pretty cool. And it's made specifically for you. It's a custom-made piece, and so that area is real exciting, I would say. It just changes it. And like we talked about, if you can get somebody who understands how they can take this AI and manufacturing and operations and show how it can work and what it can do for an organization, you're going to be a successful person.
That is so cool. They're very, very inspiring, and one thing we didn't talk about is you are based currently in the Detroit area, so it is the big auto world. But it seems like there's a variety of industries right now in Detroit. Would you say that there's a manufacturing renaissance happening in Detroit? What's it like there in the city? What would you say
I
is
would say so. I really would. Detroit, Michigan will always be known for automobiles, and that's fine. It's great. It's an incredible industry. But the Detroit metro area, communities, and the state of Michigan itself has been trying to expand the manufacturing center. We are a manufacturing community, and that's great. So they're trying to draw other industries in here also. Again, we don't do anything automotive here, and we're growing. So it's a great area to be in. There's lots of different businesses, lots of different industries, and even believe it or not, we do isothermal freezers. There's industrial applications for them. For guess what? The automotive industry. We just researched, and we're kind of starting to get into that. So even though we're not automotive, there's things you can do in automotive that will segue you into there, and you can still get some margin. So it is a renaissance. I mean, like I said, it's exciting. There's new concepts, new ideas. There's in the same field, there's cryogenics right down the road. So there's cryogenic therapies too, where they're doing skin dermatology, so even within this field, it's just growing and growing in this area. So
That's amazing. And it's been a while since I've been to Detroit area, and I would love to go for a visit. We go to New York quite often, but not upstate and downstate, I guess. But Detroit, I got to put it on the radar, what you're describing of it. And I've heard from other people too that there's so much activity, even the technology companies and technology teams coming to Detroit to support the automotive, the big players, but also a lot of innovation happening in the area, which is phenomenal. So definitely a place on my radar. But as we get close to the sort of the end of the show, the time limit that we have, David, we wanted to ask you, is there anything that we can do, and our audience who's listening, how can we help you? How can we get in touch? Or if anything we can do to help, please let us know, give us some ideas.
biggest thing I can recommend for today and the future, and Tom and I talked about it before, is STEM. It's getting the next generation, getting them excited about manufacturing. We try to do tours here for the kids, and the big thing with the kids, you got to get the parents in here, so they understand what it's about. Supporting STEM in schools, supporting it, even within colleges. It's important. It's important that kids understand what they can do. We have interns here we bring in, and they get excited about stuff. So what people need to do is open up their minds about what manufacturing is. I almost wish we could change the word. People have this preconceived notion of what it is, and even my dad, who's 96, he doesn't get it, but that's okay. It's such an exciting area, like we've talked about. So I would think the big thing to get a word out is for businesses to support schools, be involved, conduct tours, it's a great thing because I'll tell you, those are your employees of the future. I've gotten some great employees from being involved in schools. And yes, I know it involves sitting through some incredibly boring meetings and sitting and doing some stuff that you're almost dying going through it. But you make that connection within the schools. And not every kid's necessarily going to go to college. So there are kids who are looking to get into operations. They don't want to go to college, but they're tech savvy, they're creative, they want to build, they want to make things. Getting involved in schools, what happens is this, if you're involved, you're there, you get to know the kids, or more importantly, the teachers will direct the kid towards you and say, hey, this is a kid you need to talk to. Or I had one time, it was in Indiana, it was manufacturing day, we had a tour. So the kids are coming through, and the one teacher that I'd worked with on a variety of things in school, his arm around this one young man, brings him up. He says, David, I want you to meet this young man. Met him and talked to him. And, he was going to some community college because he wanted some education. After he graduated high school, we hired him. He went to community college. When I finished that assignment there and left, he was doing programming, engineering, and he was excited. So you can grow people because they can come in and learn how your operation runs. And it's almost organic, and they become part of it. And so that's exciting. And it really is it's a great, to be blunt, it's a great avenue for workers to hire, because it's tough these days. And when you bring in these young kids, they have such a great way of looking at things. They don't have the blinders on that we all have, and they're looking and they ask great questions and they challenge you on stuff, not negatively, but they challenge. Why don't we do it this way or that way? So, long story short, support STEM, get out. Businesses need to be corporate citizens. You're part of the community, be involved in the community, and being involved in something like that. I'll have them go, well, I can't donate money, whatever. You donate your time. Bring kids in, let them do stuff. It's fun. It's good. It kind of, and to tell you the truth, it kind of reinvigorates you a little bit too. So that's all right.
Love it. Love it.
Incredible call to action, David. Thank you so much for being on the show, for talking to our audience, really taking us through a journey. I learned tremendously a lot on this podcast. It has just been an absolute pleasure to speak with you and have you on the show. Thank you so much. Shout out to all my Detroit contacts on LinkedIn. If you don't know David, you need to connect with him today. An amazing guy. And thank you so much, David, again, for being on the show.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it, guys.